Welcome to She Wins. I'm your host, Heather Sumlin with Sumlin Solutions. I am so honored to have Hope Harvard with us today. Hope is someone that I've worked with before in preparation for pageantry, but today we're tackling how her business got started. She is the owner and CEO of Hope Beauty, where she has makeup products that are actually based on women from the Bible. Before that, she served at the White House. We have some wonderful stories that she'll tell, even the story of how she got herself onto Air Force One when no one actually expected that to happen. Welcome, Hope. I'm so excited to have you on the episode today. How have you been?
Good. Thank you. And thank you for having me on. I'm really excited to get to chat and hopefully give some good advice to the listeners.
Awesome. Okay, so give our listeners a little background on who you are and some of your experiences.
Ooh, okay, so my name is Hope. I am 25 years old and I am a South Carolina Southern girl. Just a little bit about my family. I always like to start with that. I am one of 4 kids. I have an older brother, but I'm the oldest girl, so that should tell you a lot about my personality. I grew up dancing. I loved to dance in college. I danced for my team, the Rally Cats at Clemson University. We got to cheer at the national championships, which was really cool. Actually, my senior year, I cheered for the national championship game that we won at, which was epic, one of the highlights of my life. But then the next year, I had moved to Washington, D.C. and was working at the White House and got to fly back to see Clemson play again at the national championship the next year. But that time, I got to fly back with the president on Air Force One. And that's the coolest story I will ever have to share. Grew up dancing. I majored in political science in college, and I always thought that I would be a broadcast journalist because I loved doing political communication. So I got an internship in college working at the White House. I had no qualifications, no connections, no friends in D.C. I'd been to D.C. one time in kindergarten, and that was the only connection I had to DC. It was purely by God's hand and grace that I was able to secure an internship in the White House Communications Office. That was when Sarah Sanders was the press secretary. And from that internship, I was actually offered a job. I worked at the Department of Homeland Security in their communications office for several months. And then the White House called and said, "Hey, we want you back. Do you want to come work for us again?" And I was like, "Yes, absolutely, I will." So I went back and I worked in the White House Communications Office again. I worked under Sarah Sanders and Mercedes Schlapp at that time doing strategic communications. And then I moved over to the Office of Legislative Affairs, where I got to help with the nominations process for the president. I got to help with bills, any events, and just overall helping out with the president's legislative agenda. It was an incredible experience. I came home from D.C. with the change of administration in 2020. I just knew in my heart that my time in D.C. was done, and I took a job in the governor's office in South Carolina. So that brought me home to my family in Columbia, South Carolina. But while I was there, I just knew that that wasn't where I was supposed to be in life. And so I kept praying for something more. And that's when I had the idea for the business that I have today, which is Hope Beauty, a makeup line all inspired by the women of the Bible.
So was that the defining moment? If there was a defining moment in your life, what was it?
Definitely the night that I cried my eyes out and told God that I was just unhappy with where I was because I knew in my heart it's not where I was supposed to be. And I was very specific with God. I said, this is what I want out of a career or a purpose in life. I said, I want a job where I can serve the kingdom of heaven, a job where I can change culture, and one that truly gives me the freedom to live out my purpose in serving you. And I went to sleep with a wet pillowcase, just tears stained, cried it all out. And the next morning, this is the fastest God has ever answered one of my prayers. I woke up with the idea to start a makeup line all inspired by the women of the Bible. I ran downstairs when I had the idea because it was like a sit up in your bed. Oh my God, this is it moment. My mom was fixing her coffee, and I was like, "Mama, I'm going to start a makeup line inspired by women of the Bible." And she was like, "Oh, that's great, honey. Go put on your workout clothes. We're going to go for a power walk." And on that power walk, I thought of something for almost every single woman in the Bible to be matched with makeup.
That's amazing.
Thank you. It really is. It's God and just to show you how he does have a plan for our lives. And sometimes when it doesn't look like the plan is all that great, we just have to ask him what his plans are and how we can partner with him to get back on that path.
Okay, so I got to rewind a little bit because you said flying on Air Force One with the president was the most interesting story you will ever have to tell. So you're going to have to share it.
Oh my goodness. Okay, so I think it's really funny because it was something that I never expected to happen. It wasn't something that I did regularly in my work. It was an opportunity that my boss gave me because he knew how much I loved Clemson. In fact, the day that I showed up to work, I wasn't even supposed to go on the trip, and they were leaving that afternoon. But I showed up in an orange and purple outfit anyways, just in case I got my name on the trip. I went down to the Chief of Staff office and was like, listen, we've got members of Congress going, senators. I need to be on the trip. I'll be able to talk with them about Clemson with all the bills, whatever it is. Like, I'm the girl to be the lead legislative person for this trip. My boss was like, she can go. The Chief of Staff's office was like, okay, we'll let her go on it. And so I got to prove myself. But it shows if you want something, you've got to ask for it. Even if you're in the White House, that statement still proves true. So going on the trip was really fun. I got to work with all of the senators and congressmen in kind of a laid back setting. So it was neat to get to bond with them on the trip because it wasn't a high stakes trip with the president. It was really just relaxed and for fun. So that was neat to get to bond with them. And then just to be in the box watching the game with the president was just incredibly surreal, especially to watch my friends down on the field cheering in the spot that I was at the year before was really neat too.
So the teaching moment I feel like here is that you have to ask for what you want. Like, don't be afraid to ask for what you want.
Yeah, that was a very bold ask of me. Not everybody could just waltz downstairs to the Chief of Staff office at the White House and ask to go on a trip on Air Force One. I was very bold in that, but I believe that, when you ask, be prepared for why it should be given to you, back yourself up. And, you're always going to be faced with the possibility of no, but the answer is always no unless you ask.
I agree with that. I think that's so true. And it will always be no if you don't take the time and have the courage to just ask for what you want.
Yeah, even if it's just help. That's one of the biggest things I've learned as a business owner. There's so many things that I don't know. And I know also that there's a lot out there that I don't know what I even don't know. And so I've had to be very humble in asking help from mentors and different advisors to just say, hey, this is something that I need help with figuring out, just even when I don't know and how to figure that out. Can you help me? I think when you go approach things with a position or a heart posture of humility, you're much more likely to get that yes too.
So when I was trying to figure out what to name my podcast, I went back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. And then I finally landed on She Wins, Solutions and Stories for Women. And what is your definition of winning? Because I think the definition that most people have, they might actually be different. And so right. How would you define winning, and what was maybe a winning moment in your life?
I think that winning is an attitude. When we go through life, it's not going to be, I won on this or I won on that or I won on that every single day, but you have to go through life with a victor mentality and knowing that sometimes your win is just going to be the fact that you leveled up and nobody saw that win, but you know it in your heart. And those wins compound and build up your confidence so that when you do fight the big battles, you have the confidence to do them because you've got all these wins in your back pocket. So I don't believe that it's to be able to say I was victorious in this situation every single day, because we don't fight the big battles every single day. Sometimes the battles are more like wars that are just fight slowly over time, month after month of fighting for the same thing. And we can't get discouraged in that. So we just have to have the mentality that no matter what, even if we failed, as long as we learned a lesson and we were able to level up from that lesson, we were still victorious.
So I met you a couple of years ago when you were preparing for South Carolina, USA. And then again, when you went to the Miss America competition, South Carolina, America. And then when you decided to launch Hope Beauty, I remember doing a session with you on just kind of your branding you were working on, I don't know, a promotional video or something.
Yeah.
So I've known you for a few years, and I think you're one of the most intentional people that I've met.
Thank you.
How would you define or describe yourself?
I'm very driven. Even though I know that we will hear the word no a lot in the business world, that comes, I hear no all the time as an entrepreneur, you can't do that. I don't like to hear the word no. So I'm very driven to get the yes eventually because it will come if you continue to work hard. I love the Lord, and I hope that anyone who knows me, even if you've only met me for a few minutes, would describe me as a woman after God's own heart. And then I like to say that I hope that I'm encouraging. My grandmother, she basically raised me. She taught me everything I know, from how to pay my credit card bills to how to love Jesus. Literally everything. The two most important things: how to shop and how to love the Lord. She was my greatest encourager. And actually, a fun story about my logo is that it's a blue butterfly because my grandmother had blue eyes. And out of the 8 grandkids that she had, I'm the only one that has her blue eyes. And right before she passed away, my mom wrote her poem called "My Mother's Eyes Are Like Blue Butterflies." And so ever since my mom wrote that poem, she would say to me, "Hope, I am Blue Butterfly Senior, and you are Blue Butterfly Junior." And I knew that didn't just mean that we were pretty, but it meant she's the encourager for the family. She's the leader of giving other people hope and joy in their lives. And she wanted me to carry on that legacy. And I hope that that's what I do, not just through my business and getting to minister to women, but in my everyday life. I hope that I'm someone who brings encouragement to others.
What has the success been like with your business?
It's been a lot slower than I want it to be. I'm being completely honest. You see people who go viral every single day. But that's not reality for the majority of us. You see the companies that are at the very top. Like, think about, what's her name? Sarah Blakely with Spanx. She started Spanx out of her living room and she had one backpack with her Spanx samples in it, going around to different places to sell it. I am still at Sarah Blakely's backpack in her apartment level. But I hope and pray that as I continue and I don't give up, I think that's the biggest definition of success, is not giving up until you've seen the return that you want, whatever that return is, whether that's with your family or with your friendships, or with a certain area of your life outside of your business. As long as you don't give up, eventually you will see some type of return on your investment.
Why did you think that the beauty industry needed makeup based on women from the Bible?
Oh my gosh. Okay. So when I said that I woke up with this idea, inspired to have the makeup line inspired by women of the Bible, it wasn't just a morning of revelation. Yes, the idea of it was, but for several months, God had been convicting my heart of the names of different makeup products. I don't know if listener, have ever taken the time to look at the different names of makeup products that are in your bags. But it's everything from Better Than Sex Mascara or Orgasm, or the fact that almost every single eyeshadow palette these days has a shade called Lust in it. There's words like cheater, or adulterer, or, all these different names that don't describe a woman of beauty or integrity, or kindness. And we know that that's what's beautiful. Aside from the fact that those aren't words that we would put on a t-shirt and wear around, to celebrate. Why are we putting those on our face as part of our makeup and beauty routine? Because isn't our makeup and beauty routine supposed to just be a reflection and an extension of the beauty that is already on the inside? I also just got really tired of not just the over-sexualization of the beauty industry from the exact same people who tell us, stop over-sexualizing women. We're more than just our bodies. Yet then every beauty product out there is over-sexualized. I just realized that there's not a makeup company out there that celebrates a woman's complete beauty. And how can you call yourself a beauty company that sells to women while you only focus on her outward appearance, when her beauty from the inside, her heart, her intelligence, her mind is what is just as beautiful as her outward appearance? Because I'm a firm believer that women are not just beautiful in appearance, but also on the inside. And a woman's true beauty is that special combination of the loveliness of her heart and her physical appearance. It's not one or the other. It's the combination of both. And I want to celebrate that and be the only company that does.
Well, and I noticed you also started a nonprofit. So not only are you doing Hope Beauty full time, but you're also, tell me a little bit about Invest in Her.
So Invest in Her was actually supposed to just be a platform for Miss South Carolina, but I knew in my heart that I don't do anything halfway. And if I was going to do this, I was going to do it right and let it be a continuing legacy. It's also something that I wanted to do for years, and Miss South Carolina was kind of just the push to get it started. So Invest in Her is a grant competition that is funded and judged by fellow female entrepreneurs. This year, I got about 20 female entrepreneurs in South Carolina to come together, and we gave a $10,000 grant to a woman who wanted to start her own business. We had women submit their pitches online through a written form, and then I had every woman submit a 3-minute pitch, kind of like a Shark Tank style pitch. We got all the Invest Hers, the female entrepreneurs who were funding the grant together. We watched all of the pitches, and then we chose one winner. And then to celebrate all of the women who participated in it, we had a cocktail party and an award ceremony. And Lieutenant Governor of South Carolina, Pamela Evitt, who is an incredible businesswoman in South Carolina, actually came and did the honor of presenting the very first Invest in Her grant this year. It's something that I'm very proud of, and just to be able to see these women come together in a community to lift up women, and where we would usually be in competition with each other, was incredible. To hear the advice that the other businesswomen gave to Gracie, who won the award, was also incredibly valuable.
So you started that specifically initially for competing in the Miss America organization, and then decided to keep pushing forward with it. I knew in my heart it's something that I wanted to continue, so I just went ahead and set up a nonprofit for it. So give me a little background on your journey in pageantry. Is that something that's over for you? Is it something you want to continue? Tell us more. Done. Definitely done. I'm 25 years old, and I have a business. I did Miss South Carolina this past year because I didn't want to have any regrets. I did it. It didn't go my way. And I'm just going to, let sleeping dogs fly. I actually started pageants when I was in the 5th grade. My mom asked me if I wanted to do one, and I went up and to do it, and I fell in love with it. It's actually where I discovered my love for politics, because I loved learning about the current events when I was working for Interview. I also loved to be glamorous. Obviously, I'm a very girly girl. Pageants is also how I discovered my love for makeup. When I was in high school, I won the Miss South Carolina teen competition. That's Miss South Carolina's outstanding teen, but now it's just Miss South Carolina's teen. I competed with 80-something girls. It used to be huge when I was in high school, and I was shocked when I won. But you know what? I learned how to work my butt off for Miss South Carolina teen. I trained just like I would, or worked just like I would for a normal full-time job to get ready for it, working on Interview and my talent, and in gown and everything to set myself apart. It also, Miss South Carolina teen is where I first became an entrepreneur. I wanted to have a custom-made Gregory Ellenberg interview outfit. And I'm one out of 4 kids, like I said at the beginning of this interview. My parents are not wealthy. They do not believe in just giving gifts either. So I knew that I was going to have to work for it if I wanted a custom interview outfit. So I sold an old cocktail dress and used that money to buy a spray tan machine. And I started doing spray tans when I was 14 years old. I don't know who in the world let me spray tan them, but they did. And I made enough money to pay for my own Gregory Ellenberg interview outfit that year. So it not only gave me, the work ethic, but then when I won Miss South Carolina teen, I also won a $10,000 savings bond. And that savings bond ended up being the very first investment into Hope Beauty, which is why I gave a $10,000 grant with Invest in Her. Oh, okay. That's just coming full circle. Yes. So you were an entrepreneur at 14, and now you're a full-fledged business owner with a nonprofit at 25. What's your advice to someone who, let's say there's a 14-year-old watching this, and they want to go and do something like that? I mean, what's your advice to them?
girl, go and do it. Don't let anything hold you back from it. There are so many times, even today, I was battling with feeling incredibly unqualified and inadequate because I'm not a finance girl. And I'm about to hop on a call with some investors who are going to ask me all kind of finance questions. But you know what? You've got to know your strengths, know your weaknesses, and figure out how to turn even your weaknesses into strengths. Whether that's where you partner with somebody else, you go out and figure it out. But don't let anything, no fear, hold you back from it. Just go and do it. And you're going to shock yourself with how well you succeed when you just put your mind to it.
I think there's also a lesson in that too, is that it's never too early to start. I've known some fabulous people who started nonprofits when they were 10 and 11 years old, who started businesses when they were in their early teens, and then became super successful, whether they walked on a college campus or not. And I think it's encouraging to know that you were able to have that entrepreneurial spirit so young. Okay.
Yes.
How can people find Hope Beauty? Where can they buy it if they want to?
So it's sold exclusively at hopebeautyusa.com. And I will send you a discount code, Heather, that you can put in the caption of this podcast so that they can have a little discount too.
Nice. Well, thank you so much. That's awesome. Okay, what's next? What's coming around the corner? Is more makeup? Is there anything else coming? You're always up to something.
Yes, more makeup. So I'm working on graduating to the next level of manufacturing, which would allow me to go into retail stores. So I'm hoping that in the next 2 years, you can find Hope Beauty in major retailers around the globe.
Will you ever go back to politics?
I don't think so. I think that I found my passion in this, and I actually have several other business ideas up my sleeve that I want to get to working on. So if the President of the United States called me and asked me to come back to work at the White House in maybe 10 or 20 years, the answer would be probably yes. But for the foreseeable future, I am so happy getting to minister to women. I'm writing a book right now, and I want to focus on my different business ideas because I've seen how well it can touch hearts.
Has there ever been a time when maybe it wasn't a win, but it turned out to be the best lesson ever that you haven't already talked about?
That I haven't already talked about. So before I was accepted to the White House internship program, I was actually waitlisted. And I realized when I got into the internship program, the person that I initially interviewed with who put me back on the wait list, I was accepted into the program, but not matched with an office yet. They had actually initially interviewed me in the intern office. And I wasn't a fit for the intern office. I didn't want to manage all the other interns all summer. So I got put back onto the wait list, but I didn't know that. So when the White House Communications Office called to interview for me, it was the perfect fit for me. It was the right timing for that summer to be able to be hired out of my internship. It was truly God's timing and God's plan. So even if you get a no or what seems like a no, be patient and keep pursuing it. I did not stop praying until the White House called me back and said, do you want to come be a part of the White House internship program that summer? So even if it seems like a no, there's still a way because we serve a God of miracles. He has a perfect plan for your life. Just keep trusting, asking, seeking, and praying, and that plan will come to fruition, and it will be better than you imagined.
You mentioned earlier that you have mentors, people that you look up to, that you go to. What is a piece of advice that you've been given that you feel like has had the biggest impact on you?
So one of my mentors is the Lieutenant Governor of South Carolina, Pam Ebbett. And when I first started Hope Beauty, she helped me with everything from literally we sat on the floor for her living room, and she taught me how to file my taxes every single month. But the best advice that she's given me a ton of advice, but the best advice she said is, Hope, you've got to dream bigger. You want airport vending machines big. And every time I fly through the airport now and I see the airport vending machines, I think about that advice that I was thinking, oh, it'd be great to have, a sweet makeup line that's sold online and, maybe it'll go into a store like Dillard's or something like that one day. She said, think even bigger than that. Dream up to the sky, and think airport vending machine big. So in your dreaming, think airport vending machine big, and then figure out how to get there.
Tell us a little bit about maybe one of your favorite women of the Bible and the makeup that you matched with her.
Oh, sweet. I love this one. So one of my favorites is Hannah from the Bible. She was the mother of Samuel, and she was actually bullied in the Bible. And her husband, her family didn't understand her. So she went to God one night. She desperately wanted a son. And back a long time ago, when women didn't have any children and they were barren, it was a great shame on them just because of societal pressure. So she was being bullied. Her family didn't understand her, and she was shamed by society because she was a childless mother. So she goes to the Lord. And it says that she poured her heart out to God, that she prayed so hard that no sound came out. Her mouth was just moving. And the prophet Elijah comes out. She's praying so hard that he thinks that she's drunk. And she looks at him and she's like, no, I'm not drunk. I am this heartbroken and grieved. I'm praying that God will give me a son. And the prophet stood her up and he said, may you receive what you've asked for. And when she left, her face was radiant. So it talks about how when she went in, she was so downcast and so grieved that she couldn't even eat, that it was showing on her physically. But when she left, because she poured out her heart out to God, God filled her back up. And before God ever answered her prayer, her face became radiant when she left the temple. She went home, God opened her womb, and she gave birth to Samuel, who became one of Israel's greatest prophets and leaders. So I think that shows that there is nothing in our life that God cannot turn around. An impossible situation, being bullied, being misunderstood, being shamed of who we are in our circumstances, there's nothing that God can't turn around. But also, before he ever gives you what you've asked for, he's going to do a work in your heart and fill it back up with his presence. And that is what is most powerful and loving about our God, I think. So the makeup that we matched with her is actually a highlighter stick, because the Bible said that her face was radiant. So I have a little highlighter stick, and on the bottom of it, it has her Bible verse that the Lord filled her up. And the very last thing I'll end on for her story is that she sang a song of worship to the Lord after he gave her Samuel. And it is actually what the song that Mary song that we're probably all more familiar with, that my heart glorifies the Lord and rejoices in God, my Savior. And I think that should also remind us that he hears our prayers. He's going to answer our prayers. He's going to do a work in our heart. And in turn, we should worship him with everything we have, just like Hannah did.
Well, Hope, I think you're such a blessing. I think you were very well named because you give hope to so many people. I want to thank you so much for being here on the show with me today. What's your Instagram? How can people follow you on social media?
My page is Hope_Harvard, and then Hope Beauty's page is Hope Beauty USA.
Awesome. Thank you so much. It's been a blessing having you on.
Thank you.